Sarah, nice to see you through Zoom.
Hi, nice to see you too. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Ta-ta. There it is.
We either need music or somebody to sing.
I had a dream.
I love it.
Sassy, good to see you today.
You too. Was talking to someone else who was trying to get into the program, a couple people, and I said, we got to figure out how to get you in, because one guy was last when I first started. Trying to figure out how to get him in. He had a paperwork problem, but I think we're getting him.
And to be an AmeriCorps member?
Hopefully.
Oh, have him call me, email me.
Okay.
Yep.
Making a note right now.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And Sarah, are you aware of the statewide tornado drill that's happening today?
Yes, 10:07.
Oh, okay. Well, that'll be fun.
So, just so you don't get surprised, we're going to have a brief pause while everybody does their tornado drill.
Okay.
That's right, everybody. In the office. I saw that on the news this morning. I didn't know it affected just public school, all schools, out everywhere, or what?
That's a good question, Sassy. I don't know. I'm
Me
not
neither.
sure if the colleges do it too, or if is it just public like.
If it's a tornado, I think it would be big and external, right?
Right.
That's my guess.
We did it at WKU when I was there, when I was a student. So yeah, I think now, especially down here, that it would need to be done, since, you know, we've had all of our issues in the past couple of years.
Yeah, I think it makes sense for anybody and everybody to participate for safety.
Hi, Tony, you got through. Yeah. Well, I'm going to hand it over to Tony because she is going to be our little hostess this morning, and kind of start us off with our welcome and agenda.
Okay, good morning. Are we pausing a little bit because of the fire drills, or are we just going on?
We will stop at 10:07, Tony, after the connection question.
Okay, great. All righty then. So good morning. Welcome, everybody. Glad to have you here. And today's agenda, we will be having a connection. We have a guest speaker, an essay writing, and break for self-care. Then we're going to talk about the AmeriCorps week starting next week, announcements, a split session, and then our checkout. So do we want to go right on into our connection question? All right, connection. March 6th is National Oreo Cookie Day and National White Chocolate Cheesecake Day. If you had to pick, which would you choose, Oreos or white chocolate cheesecake? Me, I think, I don't know. I like them both. Oreos might last longer though, because you have to refrigerate cheesecake. So I don't know.
I'm thinking a white chocolate Oreo cheesecake.
Yes,
Best
I'm
of
seeing
both
some of those
worlds.
pop up. Why be limited? That's really what I'm going to say. Why would I limit on either of
Exactly.
those?
I mean, it would be an injustice.
I agree.
I agree too, Tony. You get those Oreos and you make them last longer. Split them in half,
That's right.
savor them. Yeah, I'm going with the Oreos too.
So it looks like we've got kind of split on these. Chocolate cheesecake.
I think I found my people though. See,
Oreo.
the cheesecake people.
I do love cheesecake.
Yes, all forms.
Oh, and Carmen does not like either. What planet are you from, Carmen?
Y'all should learn to expect such things from me.
I know.
Well, I just think we have a lot of rebels too. Like everybody's like, I'm making both happen for me. Like
Yeah,
we've got
I
a lot
think
of
we
people
just-
who are like, we're gonna do both. I'm not gonna
Yes.
choose.
I refuse
should
to
I
be
choose?
limited.
So I'm curious, can we, using our little raise our hand response, who is gonna be leaving for the fire drill here in about 3 minutes? If you, will you do your little raise your hand reaction if you are gonna be leaving?
I don't see my raised hand thing, so I'm going to raise my hand like this.
And if you
Just
don't mind me saying, I would encourage anyone to participate just because you know, you might be in a building that you're unfamiliar with, or that's just my 2 cents, but you know, we want, safety is very important. We're going to pause here on the webinar. So, you know, please don't feel like you can't participate. You won't miss anything.
And besides, there's nothing like hanging out on a rainy day with all the students for a fire drill. Gonna wake you up.
Well, it's a tornado drill, so you'll be inside.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
All right.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
just
fire
as
drill,
much
I would
fun.
say.
Just as much fun because they're crouched down in the hallway.
Crouched on their knees with their head.
So all the back view of everybody is available.
Yes,
Studying
I've
and
had to
everything.
do those. When I was outreach, I've done fire drills, tornado drills, gun shooter drills, total lockdown. Crazy.
I used to teach at a middle school, and when we would do those, you know, the hormones, and some kid, you know, like there was some that didn't wear deodorant, or the deodorant didn't work, and we're all huddled together, and it's like, oh, and that, and good times.
Yeah.
So at Sophie's school, somebody accidentally hit the lockdown alarm
Oh no.
last week. And kids freaked. So when that tornado drill goes off today,
A little,
they
yeah.
are probably going to be kids crying everywhere in the elementary
no.
school because they were working on the alarms. They had to come in and service them, and nobody told them. And the fire drill alarm went off, and she said kids started crying everywhere.
Oh,
And she said, Mommy, they could have at least got on the intercom and told us we're working on the alarms. They may go off. So I can't wait to hear the stories when she gets home today.
I was wondering if Stephen Collins, you've put a link in the chat here for us. Do you want to share with us a little bit about what that is? You know, while the rest of, you know, while folks are maybe away doing fire drills.
Oh, yeah, they're doing the drills now.
Tornado drills. I keep calling it a fire drill.
Oh.
It's supposed to happen like any moment now.
Yeah, yeah. So NKU announced that there's a bunch of people looking at me. Yeah, so yeah, NKU is I guess they're automatically enrolling students or high school seniors that have a 2.75 and above. So it cuts down on the whole application process, which is pretty cool. And that just came out this morning.
Wow, that is interesting. So when they say automatically enrolling, they still have to sign up for it, or is it just all the graduates in the northern, like
Yeah,
greater
you're
Cincinnati
pretty much
area?
they've got your information and you're in. And if you want to go, you go. If not, then yeah.
I'm looking forward to reading that. I pulled it up, Stefan, but I'm not going to, I'll read it later, but
Yeah.
do you recall if it talked about like placement scores and things like that? Or are they just, are those criteria still in place, or?
Yeah, they just went off of, I just saw just the GPA of, I want to say
Gotcha.
2.75. Yeah.
Very interesting.
I hear the alarm. Does anybody else hear it? It's happening in my town.
Not yet.
Thanks, Shelley.
So yeah, it streamlines the process. Not that the application process should be a hindrance.
Yeah, it sounds like it's making it more like inclusive, like you're everyone. Come on,
Oh,
everybody. We're all
Gotta
eligible.
go.
Oh, bye-bye.
All right.
Well, I'm
So
kinda-
currently NKU,
I know when I go to visit David Frisby at Morgan ATC, one of the joys is to walk into their superb tornado shelter. It is like state of the art. It is so awesome. So just to go in there, even when there's no tornado, is a delight.
well, my whole section was tornado area, and that's just because when they built around the windows and all that. So I was in the middle of the building, and like both schools I was in as a KCC, and it was a little dreary. I wanted sunshine every now and then. I wished I had a window.
I can
I would
definitely
be
agree with that, since as I have your old office.
Mhm. I'm in a cubby with no window. It's tough.
See, you can just shelter in place though, Lynn.
Hide under the desk, right?
Mhm.
That's my catch-all plan, hide under the desk. Oh, the students just walk like snails to the tornado drill. They could care less. I said if it was real, they'd be moving faster.
I watched that movie. This is an old movie, but I watched that movie Kindergarten Cop with my kids recently, you know, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and how he like drills them with the fire drill, and like the kindergartners are like really good at the fire drill. And then when there actually is a fire at the school, all the other kids are just like around the hallways, and the kindergartners like they're grabbing their pet, they know what to do. It was cute. So Sassy, your hand is still up. Is that because you have something to say, or is it still up because you're participating in the fire drill? Or the tornado drill? Ah.
He's not participating in the tornado drill, or I would be too. He's just
Oh.
probably over there a hot mess, don't even realize his hand's up.
Okay. I'll lower it for him.
Okay.
All right, Karen, I think Stephen just got added. So do we want to, it looks like most of our folks are back. Do we want to keep trucking?
Let's keep going. I know he has a busy morning, so all right. Well, it is my pleasure to introduce you to Stephen Peed. He works for the Kentucky Career Center and Brighton Center as a business services representative. Specifically,
yes, ma'am.
Hello. Hi, Stephen. Specifically, I've invited him to talk with us today about the Kentucky Essential Skills Certification. And some of you may know about that, and some of you may have heard about it, want to know more. So I've asked him to kind of just hop on this morning and talk a little bit. I know he is going to Rise Academy today, one of our schools, to get started on this process with their students. And it's just great. So Stephen, I'm going to click, or Emily, if you wouldn't mind clicking where it says Kentucky Essential Skills Certification, it should open up the flyer. See if it works. If it doesn't, I can pull it up.
Yeah, it won't do it in presentation mode for me like this, Karen.
All right. No worries. Let me pull it up, and then if you wouldn't mind me sharing my screen, then
Here, I think I got it here. I can pull it.
oh,
over,
okay.
And share, or I can share it. Hold on.
Sorry, if there was another way, I should have done that. There we go. And so, Stephen, I'm just going to kind of let you take it from here to go over sort of the key points about the Kentucky Essential Skills Certification. And then we may have time for some questions, but take it away.
Sounds good. Good morning, everybody. Those of you that were participating in the statewide tornado drill, hopefully you all made it out okay as we did. It was a little hectic for a couple of minutes, but we got everything figured out. Like Karen said, my name is Stephen Pete. I'm a business service representative with the Kentucky Career Center in Covington. And the bulk of my job is to connect job seeker with business, especially on the trades and construction and manufacturing side. But also part of my job is to facilitate the Kentucky Essential Skills Certification, which is on the flyer that you have shared on your screen. What it is it's a 4-part soft skill training. Soft skills / how to be a productive human is the way that I describe it when I give it. Conveying professionalism, communicating effectively, promoting teamwork and collaboration, and thinking critically and solving problems. This is really being pushed by the state, especially recently. We have some benchmarks in place for not only this fiscal year, but next fiscal year, just in the Northern Kentucky area. We're hoping to get 2,500 new Kentucky Essential Skills Certification awarded. The state is really pushing this. As far as what is involved in those, just some of the subcategories are right there on your screen with conveying professionalism, which is part 1. It's just positive attitude, excellent customer service skills, being able to build great work habits, being punctual, being dependable, being trustworthy, all things that businesses are looking to have in their employees. Teamwork and collaboration, how that you have to work as a team, understanding that there are benefits and drawbacks of working on a team, being sensitive and being aware of the differences that people have and what they have going on in their different lives and their different cultures, make who you are, and how they can benefit and make a more wholesome, more cohesive unit as a team. We talk about leadership, what it means to be a good leader, what it means to be a bad leader, those characteristics. Another part is communicating effectively, being able to be a good speaker, how you communicate not only verbally, but, body language, eye movement, eye contact, gestures. We talk about all forms of communication, the effects of social networking, the benefits of social networking, but also the dangers that can be involved in it as well, and how to get through a serious conflict and be able to de-escalate. And then the final part is critical thinking problems. How you have to overcome adversity, how you can get through those events, and how change affects everything that we do. Being a critical thinker, analyzing the problem at its core, and then working your way out of an issue. And then how problem solving in the workplace comes about. Like it says down there in the bottom, it shows that these soft skills are core to not only classroom and college people, but college readiness, but career readiness as well. And I think even more importantly, on the career readiness side, because at some point during their college career, they will pick up the bulk of this or get, enhanced on these skills. But those that are going into a career, I feel personally, it's more for a career or professional readiness and a professional and personal success. It works. I've seen it firsthand as far as employers looking for this now. I had a class last April. And a lady that was in my class, she finished the class. I sent her certificate. The very next day, she had a job interview, and they asked what it was, and she told them a little bit about it and gave me their information. And now they're on my rotation as far as like an entry level. It's an onboarding thing for them now because they believe in it that much.
Thank you, Stephen. Can you speak a little bit to sort of what the class looks like, or what are the different formats that our coaches could either consider for themselves as a professional development, or also with the students that they work with?
It's broken down into parts. There's a website that you can go to. There, all of the information is there. So it can be done over the course of however long you want to cover it. As far as the material that's there, of course, personally, I'm biased and feel that I think the in-person works better because you can get some dialogue going. And you can get, you can share stories and share firsthand knowledge of, hey, you need to do this because it can help you with that. When I do it, or, in person, we can be tailored several different ways. When I teach it here, it's parts 1 and 2, and part of 3 are one day, the rest of 3, 4 reviewing a test or another day. Like Karen said, I'm going to Rise Academy. As soon as I'm done with this meeting, I'll actually head out. Today is the last day for them.
Oh, last.
I started Monday. I did 2 parts on Monday. We did 3 and 4 yesterday. And we'll do a review and we'll take our test, later on this afternoon. But that can be tailored however. I usually do it in person, but if the need is there to do a virtual with a virtual class, if we can get the at least the instruction part. Once we get to the test part, it gets a little bit trickier because there's the need for a lockdown browser. So you have to have a lockdown browser to take the test. Why? I don't know. But it's so that they cannot navigate other areas. It's an unnecessary evil, if you ask me. It kind of makes it tougher to administer the test, especially if you have to go through multiple attempts at the class or multiple attempts at the test. It does make it a little bit difficult.
So Stephen, thank you so much. I know some of the answers to the questions based on earlier conversations with you. So if you all have questions about the Kentucky Essential Skills certification, you can reach out to me, or I'll kind of scan the chat a little bit later today and get back with you on that.
Okay. I'm good to go for about the next 20 minutes. I've got some time.
Okay. Well, I think that we need to move on, Emily, or okay.
Yes, we do have another presenter.
Stephen, we want you to keep going, but we have to move on.
The office phone number that's on the screen is incorrect. We've changed our phone system.
Okay.
And that number is no longer valid, but I'm going to put my office phone number in the chat.
All right,
so
and I'll
that
update the slide before I send it out to everybody this afternoon. So my apologies. I think you told me that before and I just grabbed it off the website.
That's okay.
Okay.
But I will put my office, the cell number is correct and the email is correct. So you're fine there. But I did just put my cell number in the chat.
Thank you.
And anybody wants to reach out if they have any questions, you guys can let me know, and however you wish to proceed with your particular group, we can do so, and we'll make it work for you all.
All right, and anyone that goes through it and passes the assessment will get a certificate signed by who?
Signed by the Lieutenant Governor.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, and
once
they complete the course.
How many hours would you say required on that?
For the test or for the course?
For the course.
Well, when I do it, it's usually for the 4 parts, and it depends on how much dialogue with each group. Sometimes an hour and 15, hour and 20 minutes.
Okay.
sometimes longer. It just depends on what kind of conversations you get into. I had one right at the end of January with it's a group called Transitions, and it's a dependency program and a recovery program. And part one took like an hour and a half because we were getting some really in-depth, great conversations that I didn't want to stop because we were really having some great dialogue. But it could be less than that. So but we can adjust the schedule however we need to.
And Emma at Rise has given you 2 thumbs up.
See that.
That's great.
I appreciate that, Emma.
Well, Stephen, thank you so much for your time today. Have a great final day at Rise. I look forward to following up with you and Emma to see how it all went and share that great information out with coaches. I will update the slide here with the correct phone number, everyone, and before I send it out this afternoon to you.
Okay. Thank you all. If you have any
Stephen.
questions, just reach out.
All right. Thank you so much
Thanks.
for your time.
Thank you all. You have a good day.
You too.
All right, Mindy, we're going to hand it over to you to introduce our next presenter.
Hey, everybody. I am so excited to share, to share Sarah Scott and David Frisby's kind of expertise and leadership on this. So we're going to talk a little bit about scholarship and personal essay writing. As we know, personal essay writing can be used for scholarships and other things, applying to colleges, applying for graduate schools, sometimes even applying for jobs. And so Sarah Scott is and some of you may have already met Sarah. She's been with us before. She works with Center College's first generation college student program at Center, has worked with admissions quite a bit in that process, and has other experience working with her current college students and helping them get to their next stages. And then we all know David Frisby. He will be working with us and talking to us a little bit about how we can apply this to the work we're doing. So Sarah, I'm going to let you introduce yourself more fully.
All right. Thank you for having me. I always enjoy talking with this group. And for those of you, I know there's some familiar faces. We had a First Gen Networking luncheon provided by Campus Compact. So thank you for that a couple of weeks ago. And just to let everyone know, we will be pursuing a day in the summer to meet together. Anybody who wants to talk about First Gen best practices and just share materials or anything they want. So be looking for that from communication from Mindy coming here in the spring. So a little bit about me. I'll start off and then I'll kick it to David to close out with some practical applications. And I'll talk about, as Mindy said, essay writing, which is also personal statement writing, which is also, the tips included also apply to cover letters for jobs, all of that good stuff. I've been working in higher education for over 20 years. And in that time, particularly in admission, I've read thousands of essays. I've also helped, I don't know how many students with their applications going forward and job applications. So I feel like I'm continually in that mode of working with students on how they present themselves in writing. So for particularly the first generation students, which Mindy mentioned I work with, we have something at Center called the First Gen Guarantee, if you're unfamiliar with that. And so I run 3 programs. One is a full tuition scholarship program. The other one is a mentored scholarship program, and the other is wraparound funding. So the First Gen Guarantee at Center means every first generation college student who comes to Center will get at least $5,000 to use for high impact practices. So studying away or abroad or buying a suit for an internship or whatever. So if you have questions on that end of things, I'm happy to talk with people afterwards. Feel free to reach out to me. But the essay, I'm going to go over just some highlights of that, and I would be happy to answer questions along the way if you have questions or other suggestions that you know of. And then, like I said, David will follow up with some practical applications, how you can get this information to students. So what are we looking for? Probably number one, the essay and GPA are the most critical components of college application. Those are the two things we look at that carry the most weight, at least here at Center. I think many colleges do. And the GPA at this point, it is what it is for if students are seniors, right? And we want to help them get their GPA and their academic skills as fine-tuned as possible before that point. But the college essay is really something they have time to master. So even if their GPA is not where they want it, it doesn't mean to give up on the college essay. So we are looking for things. Is it proofed? Are there no typos? Is it well written? They have time to do that. They have time to give their essay to other people for proofing. And if they haven't proofed, that sends a signal to the colleges. This is how the student will behave when they come here. Are they going to take academics seriously? That kind of thing. So proofing is critical. Also, just I'm going to keep an eye on the chat and in case there are questions there. Also, something to be aware of for students you may work with who complete applications, college or otherwise, on their phones. Sometimes the formatting messes up. And so to tell them to double check and make sure it's not one giant paragraph, that the formatting is what they want before they turn it in, but it can be misleading on the phone. Just a practical tip there. We are looking for good essay structure, an introduction, a middle and end, that kind of thing. You'd be surprised how many students just cut it off right in the middle and we're left hanging as the reader. We don't want that. We are looking for unique content. So this can be really hard for high school students in particular, because we read lots and lots of essays that could be written by a great number of people. So for instance, essays on athletic injuries, on mission trips, on parents' divorce, on things that are very significant and meaningful to high school students, but may not be unique in their presentation. Everybody has a story. So I would encourage you to encourage your students to, it's fine to write about topics other people write about. Lord knows I've read 1,000 essays on COVID, but just to have their own unique spin on it. Then that's fine. So there's really no topic that's out of bounds. It depends on how students write about it. It can be something, it doesn't have to be something traumatic, something big in their lives. They can write essays on something mundane or seemingly mundane. So I've shared this before, but one of the best essays I have read was about a student who had a tendency to find change on the ground. Right. And so he wrote about that as part of his life and, infused a little bit of humor in there, but he closed it out with, I pay attention to detail and this is what I've done with the money I've saved and that sort of thing. So it told us much more about him than a generic, I'm going to do air quotes, essay that could have been written by a number of people. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. So what we're looking for, the qualities we're looking for that come out sometimes in essays and sometimes don't, and that's okay. Maturity and humility. Humility is something that goes very far if students have the maturity to be able to understand, for instance, you know, that other people have value, that other opinions are important. They're not right all the time, that kind of thing. We look for drive and persistence. Do they overcome obstacles? All of us have them. Are they going to keep going? And all of this, you know, as I said earlier, they're ways in which we're trying to predict how a student will be successful in college. So we're trying to infer this stuff. Optimism is huge. Does a student, and that goes along with drive and persistence, do they keep going? Are they open-minded, have self-reflection? Are they excited about academics? Any of those things can go very far. One thing, when I talk with high school classes, and I'm happy to go anywhere, I love talking with high schools about the Common App and essay writing. But one thing that's really surprising to some students, because they've been told the opposite, is to not write something for shock value. So sometimes students are told, make them cry, meaning them, the admission counselors. Please don't tell your students that, although I do cry plenty reading, you know, college essays, because they're quite moving. But that shouldn't be the motivation. So plenty of students have gone through, even at this young age, traumatic events, or, you know, events that are incredibly hard. They shouldn't shy away from those topics if that's meaningful and they want to write about any of those topics, but there's a way to do it. So writing about an obstacle overcome, I think it's really important for them to end up with, what has it taught them? How are they going to use that resiliency in the future? Often we get essays that are just the blame game kind of essays. So, you know, I come from a small town and people here aren't educated, and, you know, it's kind of a I'm better than that attitude, and that's a real turnoff. So talking about how you appreciate what you have and how you want something different maybe going forward is fine. When writing about a traumatic event, which again is okay, I would advise you to advise your students to not be graphic. The point shouldn't be, feel sorry for me. The point should be, hey, I've been through something really hard and I've come out stronger on the other end, and or more empathetic, or, you know, more dedicated to academics, or whatever it is on the other end. We also get some recycled essays. So in the Common App, at least, there's an opportunity to post writing that has been done before for something else. I would advise against that because it really doesn't tell us, most of the time, doesn't tell us anything personal about the student. So that may hurt a student's chances. Also, if there is an additional essay needed for a scholarship or just applying to a different schools, please remind your students to not copy and paste your Common App essays. Sometimes students think, oh, the essay for the scholarship, these are different people reading stuff, so I'll just copy my Common App essay and put it on my scholarship application essay. We're reading both, so they shouldn't copy and paste anything. Lastly, as far as tips, I would say humor is great sometimes. To infuse a little bit of humor is totally okay, and in fact nice sometimes if the content affords it, but a stand-up routine is not. So that really doesn't tell us how the student will fare as a college student. It tells us they're funny, which is great. But you know, so if you have any class clowns in there, you may want to help them temper their essay. And there are lots of practical ways. I've heard high school teachers infuse this into their curriculums, and David will talk about that in a minute, both passive and active. Some schools, or some teachers in the AVID program, if you're familiar with AVID, will have students write their essays just as a regular assignment. They'll give one of the Common App prompts and then grade it and all that stuff, and then say at the end, hey, guess what? You've written your college essay. Should you want to use it? And the students who are intimidated by the application process are often surprised, like, oh, okay, well, I can do this. So that's a little bit of a sneaky way of helping them, but it can work with some students. So I'm going to read in the what David Thorpe has said and see. Hang on just a second. Okay. Yes, definitely. Sorry, I thought that was a question. So those are just some basic tips. Most of them are very intuitive and self-explanatory, but sometimes it just helps to think about it and help high school students think through it. Now I'm going to throw it over to David to talk about practical applications to get the information across to your students. Oh, wait, there's one question. Sorry. What are your thoughts on using ChatGPT as a tool? My professors at the University of Cincinnati are now encouraging the use of this tool. However, the expectation of our final product is different from traditional writing assignments. Like the calculator, ChatGPT is here to stay. I think ChatGPT can be a fine starting point sometimes if students are looking for ideas or whatnot. ChatGPT is hard to infuse your personal experience in. So as a starting point, perhaps fine, but I don't want students to be penalized if they don't include a personal information, if that makes sense. So, okay. And outlines, yes, definitely can help quite a bit. Yes, the new conversations, AI. Are there any questions for me before I throw it to David, or comments, suggestions people have?
Sarah, there's one from Harley, and he is asking if the center's questions on the Common App change year to year, or if it's the same.
The Common App is very stable. So the questions don't change very much, but we don't predict what they're going to change to the next year. So I think if you look at the last couple of years of questions from the Common App, you can feel sure that some of those prompts are going to be used again. They just don't change them very much. And usually if they change them, we get a heads up. Common App will say, hey, we're changing things. So they're pretty stable.
And I'd like to add something, and while people are thinking about maybe some more questions, and while we're transitioning, is that if we're thinking about it from the college level and we're working with college students who are applying to grad school or for jobs, that some of these tips are slightly different, right? So for job cover letters, you do not want to include traumatic experiences or be as personal. In grad school, depending on how you're applying and what you're applying for and how that might affect your grad school going, I'd say using personal experiences, there are personal statements, right? But you have to be very careful because it becomes in grad school a lot more academic in nature. And so thinking about that. So yeah, so like different sorts of personal writing makes you have to think about how much personal stuff do you put in there and how do you approach that?
Yeah, great point, Mindy. Grad schools and sometimes cover letters are looking for longevity of interest sometimes. So they're looking for someone who's going to stay in grad school. Are you serious about this? Do you know what you're getting into for this particular program? So a lot of people write a narrative of how they became interested in the field and how that has continued for quite some time. And yes, usually highly personal information is kept out of that, but sometimes not, depending on if it connects with the program they're applying to. So having other people read things many times is really important. There was a student who helped with her application to medical school. And in her personal statement, she wrote about, as I mentioned earlier, her coming from a small town. Now, I knew this student very well. I knew she loved her small town. And but her essay came off as really elitist and condescending of the people in her hometown. And so she had a faculty member, and I read it, and we both said, you know, this doesn't sound like you, and this is what, had I not known you, what I would think. And so she was able to adapt her essay to really get across what she was trying to get across. Sometimes we just write things and it sounds good in our head. We think we know what we're getting across, but having others read is really helpful. I'll get caught up on the chat here.
I think let's let David move on, and then we'll continue to monitor the questions, and maybe we can have some time to answer those as we get towards the end. David, it's up to you.
All right. So how do we apply this sort of information to our job? I have said from the get-go, personal writing and just writing in general is so important for life after high school. These students will be expected to write daily. I don't care if you're going to college for your first year, or if you're going to go into the business field, or if you're going to work as a construction worker, you're going to have to write at some point, whether if it's emails, text messages. It is the quintessential baseline form of communication in the world, aside from walking up to someone and talking to them face to face. It's the most common form of communication. And whenever we have students develop these scholarships, essays, and personal essay writings, the very important thing that you have to realize is the way that these high schoolers are conditioned is they do one task and they think it's done and they run off. Writing ain't like that. Whenever you write something, you have to go back, you have to proofread it, you have to edit it, you have to look at any vocabulary errors, any inconsistency in fluency. You have to assess your grammar. So it's very important to us to instill a way for students to go back and read it in a non-biased manner, where they can sit there and read their writing. Because if I'm reading my writing in a biased manner, it can all be jumbled up. I can put the same word in there 50 times. And I can just shrug my shoulders and say, well, it's done. It looks good. No, it don't look good. If you say, but 50 times in a paper, you're using the word too much. So I would say that teaching students to look at their writing and in an unbiased viewpoint will probably impact them the most in the long run. But if you want to help read their writing, assess their writing and tell them what they do wrong, if you have experience with proofreading papers and stuff like that, then by all means go for it. Or you could get in contact with the English teacher and they could help the student. There's many different ways to tackle the issue. And it's a very important thing that we as coaches should address. Did I cover it right? Is there anything else that I need to go over? Or?
So David,
think
if you don't, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
sorry. I was just gonna say we have about 3 minutes left for kind of final thoughts and questions. So that's great. Thank you.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions?
And Sarah, please say what what you were going
Sure.
to say as well.
I think, you know, high schoolers are so busy and so distracted as we all are right now. David is right. Having students sit there and start something in class just to gain momentum, whether it's a job application or college application or whatever it is critical. You can also get passive information. So by flyers, bathroom stalls are huge. There are captive audiences there to get little bits of information to people on a wider basis sometimes. I'm also happy to come to any school as our most admission counselors. If I come to schools, just so you know, I do not push Center College at all. That's not my goal. My goal is to meet the students where they are and answer any questions that will benefit them wherever they want to go or whatever they want to do.
I want to add, you know, I have, many of you know, I have a 17-year-old, a senior in high school right now. So we're going through a lot of this. And the best thing I found, and I think that that you'd be able to convert it into the students you work with, whether you're at high school or college level, is just getting them together in some space to start that writing. So when I talk to my son about like, get started. Yes, I'm going to. He just never did it, right? And so I felt like a little bit of a helicopter parent, but it worked. My schedule worked out for this. I said, look, you're stressed out about this. I'm stressed out about this. Why don't I come to school? Because that's when you have time. We'll go to the library and I'll sit there while you start writing, right? Like, and then we can answer questions and talk it out. And I was thinking when I did that with him, like it would have been really useful to bring a bunch of kids to the library and just start that, right? Get them to start writing, get them to start talking to each other or ask you the questions or read through it. And I think that could be done on a larger scale for our coaches, whether you're at high school or college. If this is something that you're working with, is just find a time where they can come together to get started, and then find another time where, okay, now we're going to switch essays and comment and whatever, right? So there are ways to do this and to help them get started, which is usually the hardest part, I think, for our young people right now, and maybe for adults too. Well, we have just a couple minutes for this session. Does anybody have any other? So we have a couple of tips in the chat. Does anybody want to share anything that they've done with students that could be helpful? Or personally, like what's helped you write these things? We've all had to write these.
I know I've been blowing up the chat for quite a while now. Mainly because I have a lot of experience with it from the graduate student side of things. I notice sort of the writing patterns a lot of students have are focused more on attaining the grade and not necessarily about why learning that process is important. Mainly because whenever you're doing the job application process, you might go through 5 or 6 iterations of your cover letter method, or your if you're applying to grad school, your personal statement, before you hit that magical, you know, wonder one that'll work every time you fire it out. Or it might not work for every industry. It sort of just depends on what you're looking for and what those industries are looking for. So I find soundboarding with industry people who you might need to reach out to could be a starting place for that.
Thank you, David. Jeff, I see you're unmuted. Do you want to add something?
Yeah, just real quick. I really like what David had said about reiterating to the student that writing is an ongoing process, because I think there's a prevalent mind frame with students, and maybe with us adults, that we want to do the thing, get it done, and then boom, send it down the line. And I tell mine in our workshops and whatnot, you think you're finished, you're not. and we call it ping pong. And they'll send it to me, I ping pong it back to them. It goes back and forth, and I tell them, expect a lot of that, because we work together and we just keep refining these things. So I like that David mentioned that.
Well, to piggyback what you just said, there's actually 5 steps in the writing process, 5 defined steps, which is step 1, pre-writing, step 2, research, step 3, drafting, step 4, revising, and step 5, editing and proofreading. I just Googled that. I was going to say it in my little bit, but I forgot all the steps. So there's 5 steps to writing.
I think I might have known that way back a few years ago when I was doing middle grades, reading and writing every day, but I kind of forgot the steps. But thank you for that reminder.
Oh, it's no problem.
So we are trying to stay on time, but we have 2 hands up, Cheryl and Stephen. You say Stefan, right?
Yes.
Emily, you're our timekeeper. Do we have time, or should we move on?
Can you say you have 1 minute each?
Okay,
Oh,
1 minute
to make
yeah,
your point.
Yeah, I can do it less than that.
All right,
Yeah,
go
so
for
to David's point, I'll tell you my personal story real quick. So I was a biological sciences guy in school, and the common trend was that none of us could really write, which was, probably true. And so I made it a point for me to take a bunch of writing courses, because I didn't really write very well. But after taking a bunch of courses, I did learn how to write, and it just made me a better, biology writer. And so it was really good in promoting me as the biological sciences person. So yeah, writing is important, and that's how you sell yourself on paper.
Thank you. Cheryl.
Thanks. I just find it really helpful to have also available when students are writing, like action verbs for their resume that they may not have thought of, such as leadership skills and communication skills, research skills, technical skills, creative teaching, detailed data, and accomplishments. Having that on board, because I find a lot of students tend to just go to the same words, has helped enrich some writing as well. And I agree with Stephen. I attended the Ohio Writing Project at Miami University and became a better writer after that as well myself.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Well, let's give Sarah and David our thanks for leading us in this discussion. I think, yeah, it was fabulous, and writing's super important for all that we do, including personal, but also what we do to support our students. So we'll move on to the next topic.
Right. Yes. Thank you, Sarah and David. If y'all want to unmute and kind of give them the snaps and the claps, we appreciate you. We are moving into our 5-minute break or 5-minute self-care topic. So the self-care topic for March is again on the writing theme. So writing thank you notes. So feel free to you can turn your camera off and step away if you need to. You can keep listening if you'd like, but we're going to be talking here about writing thank you notes, particularly writing a thank you note for yourself or to yourself. So see you in 5 minutes. Okay, for those folks sticking around for our self-care break, I was thinking about how to do a self-care that related to writing, since we're talking about that this month. And I came across this self-care exercise, writing yourself a thank you note. So I'm going to pull that up. I'm going to have to switch my screen share so that I can pull that up. So I found this blog post. Can everybody see it? You good? And it's writing yourself a thank you letter. And when was the last time you took the time to thank yourself? I'm sorry, my computer is popping up screens that I don't want it to pop up. I need to close them. There, not now. Okay. And it actually fits really nicely into this personal narrative writing idea, because it requires you to think about times where you've maybe done something difficult or made a personal change or overcome something or a lesson that you've learned, or your personal character traits and qualities that you like, or that are positive. And so in writing yourself a thank you letter, you get to say thank you for those things that so many of us do in our service that don't get noticed. There was a lot of times where I would do some research for a student, or I'd be going the extra mile behind the scenes to get an answer for them. And they would never know that I was doing that. And I would never expect a thank you. But just that practice of self-gratitude can be really healthy, because these are not thank yous that we're probably going to receive from others. So we need to take the time to thank ourselves for those things. So they've got some guidance here about how to do that. Consider whether you're wanting to write in first person like me and I, or if you want to talk to yourself in the royal third, Emily, dear Emily. And then, kind of just give yourself freedom to write and not be judgmental of your writing, and be specific about the things you've done that have made an impact. But again, other people may not know that you've done, or things that you're just particularly proud of that you want to tell yourself thank you for. I'm going to encourage us. We don't have time because, as it suggests, this could take 30 minutes or more. But sometime in the month of March, I'm going to challenge us to write ourselves a thank you note. And I'd love to hear from folks, or if you feel comfortable sharing your thank you note with me, that would make my day to see what your thank you note looks like. But just taking the time to give yourself that pat on the back. That practice of gratitude can mean so much, whether it's gratitude for others or it's gratitude for yourself. And I'm going to go back to the other screen. So let me switch to this one. So when you get the slides from Karen, there's a link here for a video that talks about the benefits of thank you notes, not only for the person receiving it, but for the person writing it. It really is a practice that benefits both the giver and the receiver. There's also a link here about writing a professional thank you note, a handwritten version by this YouTuber, the Intern Queen, which she has actually a ton of really relevant videos for our service and what we do. So even, clicking here to visit that will unlock a lot of other videos that you might be of interest, or that might be of interest to you as well. And then this is a video about writing a professional thank you note email version. Now, a lot of times we think about writing a thank you note professionally after like an interview, and email is usually the most convenient way to do that in the short amount of time, because hiring decisions are being made quickly. But like the Intern Queen mentions in her video, you might write a thank you note if someone comes in and helps you out on a presentation, or if there's someone at your site that assisted you in some way, your administrators, your site supervisor. And these are just ways to build positive professional relationships as well, because everybody appreciates getting that thank you. So I'm curious, is anybody going to try this? Is anybody going to try to write themselves a thank you note this month?
I'm going to do it. I actually just got on the website, so.
Yay, Brittany. I can't wait to hear how it goes. I'm going to try and make some time in my schedule to do this as well. All right, well, it is about time for folks to be coming back, so I'm gonna navigate over to the next slide here and talk a little bit about the in-person training. So does it seem like most of us are back? I can't tell. But this is really quick for me. Just 2 announcements. One, the RSVP deadline for the in-person training is coming up March 15th. That's next Friday. What that means is based on the numbers that we get on the 15th, that's what we're going to tell Lake Cumberland State Resort Park. So then they will release the rooms that we're not using for other people to book. So it's very important, especially if you plan to come, that you let us know by March 15th. After that, if you say, oh, I do want to come, it doesn't mean that we can't accommodate you, but it does mean that we'll have to make sure there's a room available on your behalf. And then the other thing, who is excited about the book club? I sent an email out on Monday. Woo! The co-creation team has come up with this idea to offer a book club. There's 4 books on 4 different topics. All the topics have some type of relevance to our service. And we need to know if you're coming to the training, we need you to fill out this form, because even if you don't want to read the book, we need you to sign up for which topic discussion you'd like. That's just to make sure we have enough facilitators. Like if everybody picked one topic, then we need to break it probably into smaller groups and have more than one facilitator. And then if you're not coming, but you still want a book, you need to fill out this form. The only people who don't need to fill out this form is if you don't want a book and you're not coming to the in-person training. You can fill out this form and tell us that, but anybody else needs to fill out the book club form. Let us know. Okay. So that is all I have. And I'm going to hand it over to our AmeriCorps Week committee. So this is, I think, Savannah, Chloe, Ivy, and Abby. Is that right?
Yes. First of all, I just want to thank everyone that helped plan this year, being patient with me, trying to figure out how to work Zoom because my camera did not work very well. So this year's theme is not a moment, it's a movement. And a lot of the activities are going to showcase what we have done in the past as AmeriCorps and what we continue to do. It's similarly structured to last year. It's a bit different, a little more I don't want to say organized, but it's easier to look at. And then it's basically a bingo format, and I'll get into that a little bit more, but I'll turn it over to Ivy and let her talk about the service project first. Is Ivy back on?
Oh, sorry, I'm having technical difficulties.
I think Abby may have a doctor appointment today, so I'm not sure she's here.
No. Okay, hang on. Okay, so I'll make this as quick as I can because I know there'll be a lot of questions, and that's fine. So I'll, when I get done, I'll put my email in the chat, and so anybody is more than welcome to blow me up. I don't care. So Tony came up with this idea, and we just kind of ran wild with it. We thought it would be a cool way to, and a different way to serve Kentucky, because even though these people may be gone, they're still a part of Kentucky's history. So, yeah, the idea is in your community or a team member's community, just wherever you can find, and it doesn't have to technically be a historical cemetery, but just if you can find a cemetery that you know needs some TLC, we want to put little teams together or solo people, you just however you want to do it. We're trying to make this very flexible, so but yeah, the idea is to just go in and show some of these places some TLC and clean them up and make them look good. And we put like a whole list together of supplies and just different ideas and different ways maybe you could get your school involved or your community or your core students if it's feasible to you. I mean, everybody's situation obviously is going to be different. But again, we thought this would be something cool and different to do. So the basic principle of it is clean up a cemetery. But it's very flexible, like in how you go about doing it. So, again, though, a lot of questions, I'm sure. If you can't think of anything now, it's fine. Hit me up. I'll explain better. I was just trying to make this quick and get the general idea out there.
Can I add a little bit, Ivy?
Yeah, go for it.
So we've created a document that kind of gives you a timeline of how to select a site, how to get permission from your principal to see if they're okay with you doing this as a service project, and then to actually include the faculty, staff, community members. So we have a whole template lined out if you want to do it. And I know AmeriCorps services next week, and March can be tricky with weather. So while it was kind of designed for AmeriCorps week, this is a service project that could be done anytime between now and graduation. And the idea is just to pull your members together with a tactile project that helps them unify with each other and bond and make a difference in the community.
Tony, would you need to get permission from the city as well before you go into the cemetery?
Well, so this is lined out on the question and answer guideline to it. You do need to get permission, and it could be like little family farm cemeteries, because sometimes not every community has that, but depending on where you live, you may be aware that there is a family cemetery that has been kind of forgotten. In Mount Washington, there was an old cemetery down at the end of the road that was kind of the city cemetery, but not their big one. And we used to go and just kind of clean up around the tombstones, weedy, just generally clean it up a little bit so it just looks a little better. So if you find a spot, you do want to make sure you have permission to go there. And then the detailed list that Ivy came up with talks about the materials to use, because we don't want to do any damage to like very old stone. So no power washing, and no like calcium lime rust remover, because a lot of the old tombstones are from limestone. So you don't want to use that on there. So it just gives a nice little outline of action steps to take. And again, depending on the weather, March can be kind of difficult, but, and it doesn't have to be a giant project, but even in here, we added that you can reach out to people that may want to participate in person or would like to donate buckets or, cleaning material, or, loan out their pruning snips or cordless weed eater, whatever. So there's all kinds of ways to participate, and getting, especially for some schools where it may be hard to get your core students going, a project that they can really sink into and immediately see a difference just does wonders to building that cohesiveness with your core students and making awareness in your community. Plus, you're doing a great deed.
So I'm just kind of scrolling through the document, but if anybody wants to kind of walk us through this, or I'll just tell me where to scroll.
Well, Ivy, do you want to do it? Can you see it well? I would need it probably a little bigger.
Yeah, maybe a little bigger.
Lost my screen.
Okay, I can see it.
Can you see it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I did want to just point out right fast that it looks awful, but that really big blue link, that is a fabulous website. I think it's like National Park Service, but they've got like a whole page dedicated to cleaning different types of stones, and they've got their own list of suggestions, and they've even got like step-by-step videos. So it's a great tool.
So first, you want to do that buy-in from the school. You want to talk with your principal. And part of that would be to see, do they want it to be an after-school project? Could it be done something during a daytime or a special break? And you definitely want your principal and your counselors on board with what you're doing.
Yeah. So that's the thing. I mean, for a lot of people, I mean, there's a lot of different factors that are going to come into play, and however you end up being able to do it, that's awesome. So just don't stress over it. Don't feel like you have to get like 30 kids to come along with you, or
Yes, because even if you had 2 or 3 and they got
Yeah.
to do something special, they're going to talk about it. And then
Yeah.
that's just going to build more excitement for the next time. And then selecting a site, you may already know of an area in your community, or you could talk to your colleagues, your friends there, and just say, do y'all know of any small cemeteries that may not be being kept up as much?
Yeah, and like Tony said, find out permission. Don't just show up at some places.
I'll tell you the one of them that I think I'm going to go help with. Margaret Ratliff is in the far east side of Kentucky, and her great grandfather was a brother to one of the McCoys in the Hatfield and McCoy. So we're actually going to go to that cemetery, and she's already gotten permission. So it's just a matter of pulling it all together. But that's a pretty
cool.
neat historical thing. And so there could be, family names in your community where times have changed and there's just little cemeteries, small. It could just be like maybe no more than 5 graves in a cemetery. But asking people may know things or places.
Well, this sounds exciting. Thank you very much. Savannah, do you want me to go back to the slides to talk about the bingo card as well? Is that part of what we're doing too?
It is. Would you be able to pull up that living document?
Yes.
So while she's doing that, I'll explain it. It's similar to last year, but it's going to be a bingo, and it gives you a little bit more ownership, and the ideas are a little bit more vague, so you can let your creativity run wild. We have some suggestions in it, but you are free to come up with ideas with it. We have a table of contents, but we can scroll on to the rules. So each person's going to get a bingo card. It's the same bingo card, and it outlines our KCC values. So each day of the week is going to represent a different value. So co-creation, diversity, respect, ownership, gifts, fun and playfulness, and then connection. Each card has 49 activities on it, and each activity is meant to highlight one of the values. Some activities could fall under multiple values, but we chose what worked best for the overall card. And it ranges from small things like sharing a post on social media to bigger activities like a school-wide event or the service project. And then the way we're going to keep track is a little fun. While we're doing it, we're going to also make a collage of our AmeriCorps Week activities. So all of the links that you will need are embedded in this document. So we'll be able to send it out. The bingo card will be in it. We have the ways to win link. Would you be able to click on that one, Emily? The
And
ways.
speaking of ways to win, Savannah, do you want to ask who won last year?
Who did win last year?
Go ahead, Ivy.
I thought it was either Ivy or Savannah.
I hustled.
My guess would have been Cassidy. I'm impressed, Ivy.
Yep, Ivy won. She's very proud about that.
I am.
So this year we've kind of designed it to where more people can win because we're doing it in a tiered way. So the first tier is going to be your classic bingos, the horizontal, vertical, diagonal. And then the second tier are like AmeriCorps themed ones. So it's 16 to 24 squares. You can get the AmeriCorps A, you can do the big 3-0, and then the last one is the whole border. And then tier 3, this is the top tier, 30 Flirty and Thriving from 13 going on 30 is you can get any 30 squares on the board. And then you could do a full board. So with these tiers, there's different prizes that we're still solidifying. So you'll hear about those, but the first 3 people from each program that reach tier 3 will get a special prize. And then if we can go back to the living document, I have also provided a link that walks you through the process. So as we go and you're getting your bingos, you will upload photos. It can be a screenshot, photos with you and your kids, a picture of bulletin board, a picture of a video you watched. You'll upload these to a design in Canva that will create a collage for you. And then you'll submit those as you go, as you complete tiers, into a Google form, which is in the prizes section. So the values card link will be in that section too, and that's where you upload the photos.
Ben says he won a lounge chair at the last one. That's pretty exciting.
And then I'll turn it over to Chloe to talk about some of the ideas. We brainstormed some for you.
Hi, everyone. Okay, so for the values, so as Savannah said, we're ranging from co-creation, diversity, respect, ownership, gifts, fun and playfulness, and connection. And so on the same document, there is a whole list of kind of like overlining kind of general ideas. Like for co-creation, there's involve your students. And we've kind of given even further ideas of have students decorate your bulletin board or have them decorate your door, any kind of thing to just kind of give you a kind of like a basic idea of how to kind of make it your own, but then also participate within line of the values of AmeriCorps Week. So going like throughout every single one, there's like partner with your ambassador team, create a video with your core students, provide feedback for this year's AmeriCorps Week, which there is a Google form for that too. That would be an easy one to get through. You just, by the end of the week, kind of give us your thoughts and opinions and kind of give us ideas how we can improve, or if you like the way that we set it up this year. And then going into like diversity, there's inviting speakers to your school, advocating, reaching out to student support and accessibility services. So there's just a whole bunch of different ideas that we can go through. And hopefully that this kind of gives everybody like a general idea of what they can plan throughout the week, and follow the value of the day.
And each one of these numbers underneath the value is one of the squares on the bingo card. I blanked on what I was going to say. And each of the squares will also be represented in the collage that you will upload photos to and submit. Are there any questions?
This is wonderful. You all have done a really great job putting this together.
And can someone just give us a quick overview, like 30-second elevator pitch of what AmeriCorps Week is for people who weren't here last year?
So AmeriCorps Week is our time of the year to be able to celebrate everything that AmeriCorps is about, everything that AmeriCorps has done in the past, and everything that we hope to do in the future.
That sums it up. Yeah.
And now I have to follow all of that excitement and enthusiasm with maybe a not so exciting topic, but I just want to say to Savannah, Chloe, Ivy, Abby, and anyone else that's provided some support for AmeriCorps Week Planning Committee, excellent job. Like this, I thought we had a good thing last year, but this blows it out of the water. It just takes it up another level of fun, which is one of our values for sure. And you all just did a great job, and I'm excited to see what everyone is able to accomplish and share, you know, out on our social media and with other AmeriCorps programs in the state. So way to go. It's a 10. It's a 10. All right. So, yeah. So let's take it down a notch to talk a little bit about what's called the NKU Annual Compliance Refresher. Now, I did mention this in the last newsletter that I sent out last week. And that probably, or may have been the first time that you heard about it this year, like, oh, wow. So if you are not regularly logging into your NKU webmail, and if you're not, it's understandable. You have a lot going on. So, but I did give some instructions on how to get into your NKU webmail from the nku.edu website, and link or forward all of your NKU email to an email address, whether it's your school one, your personal one, that you check more regularly. Now those passwords for NKU do expire. So maybe you did it at one time and then all of a sudden you stopped receiving the email. But regardless, I would recommend that you do forward the email if you are not in the habit of checking that NKU webmail on a regular basis. And in fact, I'm not either, so I have mine forwarded because I don't always get that. Now, I will be sending out the information that was contained in that email that was sent. So if you're like, I can't figure this out, or I don't have time to do that right now, I will be sending this information out. But when you started your position as an AmeriCorps member, you should have received an invite from NKU to do like what's called like a new hire training around the topics that are listed here on this slide. If you didn't, we'll figure that out. But regardless, everyone who is not a brand new employee would need to do this annual compliance refresher. Now, what I have done is I created an FAQ. So when you get the slideshow today, you can click on that link and it will answer some basic questions like, how long is this going to take? You know, what if I don't know my username? All those things. I think I did a decent job at least getting started with some of the questions and answers that you may need. But feel free to reach out if I miss something, and I'm sure somebody else will benefit from your question as well, and I can add it to the FAQ. But it will take you about 60 to 65 minutes to complete. You know, you can start, you can, you know, take a break and go back to it and just kind of go through the PowerPoints, the slideshows on your own schedule when you can fit it in. The deadline to complete this is March 29th. So we still have you know, a couple of weeks for you to get this taken care of. This is something you can do from home. So you'll just want to, you know, log that, you know, as the KCC training on your timesheet. Let's see what else I might need to say about that I haven't already. Yeah. Oh, so once you finish through the Vector Solutions platform, which is where the link that I'll send will take you to log in, you will receive a certificate of completion once you are finished with all of the modules. And once you have received that certificate, you'll be able to download it. And then I'm asking that you then email it to me. So one extra step there, and I'm sorry that I don't automatically get that update So very similarly to like the On3Learn platform. So just send that to me, and then I will make sure that HR at NKU gets a record of that. So I know it looks like a lot. You see that whole list of topics and it's overwhelming, but it really isn't too bad. So like I said, I was able to finish it in about an hour. And it was good information. It just kind of brings that all to the front of your brain to say, oh yeah, this is important, and it gives you some contact information and things like that around compliance with NKU policies. So, and then Emily, thank you for adding that to the chat. I almost forgot. So Emily will be hosting a drop-in session to complete the NKU compliance refresher as a group on March 20th. And then she provided the link here for you to copy and secure in your calendar. Or she's also offering to add you to the invite directly so you can get the link and notification that way. So if you want her to go ahead and add you to that group drop-in for completing this, just go ahead and let her know now or email her later. Any questions or concerns? Mindy, I know I can do that. I can do all. Sorry.
I just want to be clear.
That's the easiest
all right.
way. Yes. So
Okay.
if you are a college level coach, you're going to get that information from me as well. So, so I know I don't usually email you too much, but I'll include you in on that too, just to save Mindy some time and to make sure everybody's getting the same information. All right. Looks like Jeff wants to be added to the list and a few others. Awesome, guys. Again, it's not, not as fun as AmeriCorps week, but it is important information, and it just, and I, as sort of an affiliate of NKU, it is very important for everyone to have that information, and much of that information will be applicable even to you in your schools, even if you're hundreds of miles away, because it's there's information on FERPA and mandatory reporting and things like that that can be very helpful. All right.
Thank you, Karen. So,
Thank you.
So we are at 11:34. We knew we would go over because of the tornado drill, the statewide drill. However, we did have about, I would say, 20 minutes of content, 15 to 20 minutes of content remaining. So I believe Karen would like the high school coaches to stay on if they are able to for about 15 more minutes. And then Mindy, what would you like? Do you want the colleges?
I think we're
to
okay.
stay?
I think we're going to let the college folks go on with their day. They have different sorts of schedules. So I think what we had planned, we can save for another time.
Okay. Well, that works. So I guess let's unmute. We'll say bye to our college level coach friends. Adios.
Everybody.
Bye. Have a good week.
Bye.
See you.
And high school level coaches, stay if you can, I think is the message. And we'll finish talking about a few things. So Karen, I'll pass it over to you.
It's me again. So if you can stay on, that would be great. If you can't, please, no worries. I will send out the slideshow as quickly as I can after the webinar, and then the recording will be sent a little bit later because that has to go through a different process. So, all right, spring break service. It's important to know first and foremost that this is optional. None of you are required to do any service whatsoever over spring break. You are serving on the school's schedule. However, some of you have reached out to me saying, oh, I need the hours, or, I have this idea of how I can get caught up on this training, or I want to read this. And in that case, you are more than welcome to go ahead and serve over spring break. This slide kind of outlines what you need to know about that spring break service. So first of all, you do need to talk with your site supervisor. Now, chances are, hopefully they're going to be vacationing on a beach somewhere, and they're going to be like, hey, whatever you want to do is fine. But But the reason that I need you to talk with your site supervisor is to make sure that first, once you submit hours over that time, they're going to understand like, oh yes, we already talked about this. But also, you may need some ideas or some task or things that you need information from them, or you want to sort of prioritize what you should be working on or doing over the spring break. So just talk with them and then write up that plan, and an email is perfectly fine, or you can kind of put it on a Word document. You can handwrite it and take a screenshot of it. It is advised that you don't meet with students over their spring break, although opportunities may come up where that is a time when maybe a parent and a student can talk with you, something like that. But so it's just advised that that we let students kind of have their break as well, but there are always exceptions to that. But once you have your spring break plan written up, make sure that you email that to your program manager. And then copy your site supervisor on that email. And then, not that we'll be critiquing it in any way, but we'll just have that sort of as a document that we can refer back to as needed. In America Learned, you'll want to log any time, any service hours over spring break, just as direct service, whether it's research prep, training, whatever it is that you are doing for that service. Please do not mark the time as teleservice. I know that that's kind of confusing. You think, well, I'm not maybe at the school doing this research or planning or whatever. So that must mean that I need to mark it as teleservice. No, it is, we're going to count it as direct service, but research prep, training, or whatever. And then lastly, and this is a direct order from me, you need to enjoy your spring break. So please, if you don't need the time and you were like, oh, I could make time to do this once we get back into session after the break, please do so. Emily helps us every week and every day, really, for that matter, to think about the self-care, how important that is. And it really is. You all are doing many great things. It's very exhausting, even though you love what you do. And you do need to take time for yourself. So, let me just see if there's any questions. No, if you do not, if you're not serving over your spring break, and it does vary, right? Not everybody has a spring break at the same time. Excuse me, then you don't necessarily need to email me and let me know that. We do have that information on a spreadsheet when each school spring break is that we can refer to. That doesn't mean that I might not accidentally reach out to you by email or text you with a question and it turns out to be your spring break. So please do not hate me if I do that. Just simply reply, I'm on spring break. And then I'll leave you alone. Good question though. Any other questions or concerns at this time? Okay, talk with your site supervisors, write up your plan, email it to your program manager, copy your site supervisor, log any time that you serve over spring break as direct service according to whatever it was, research, prep, training, etc. Do not mark it as teleservice. All right, thank you. And now I'll turn it over to, I believe it is Rachel and Carmen.
It's me.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay, so we wanted to touch base with you on America Learns and ask you to do some data cleanup for us. So first I want to talk about, I have a picture to the right that I've pasted on the slide. A lot of you are still recruiting. So when you add your new students, please follow the naming convention that we've provided the example for in the little pink box when you're in America Learns adding those. We want the last name, comma, first name, and then their student ID in parentheses. And that's their identifier in America Learns. This cleanup will kind of help us. Recently, I was trying to run some reports from America Learns and different things came up on my spreadsheet. So there were some that were just numbers, some odd names came up. So let's go in starting now and let's look at our data, make sure your naming conventions are correct. If you can't edit those, you can email me or Carmen and we can go in and fix that for you. And then from now on, when you're adding a new course student, let's make sure that we use that example. And then if you could go in and look at all of your core student data, complete all fields in there. Not everything is required because you're not going to have all that information when you put a new course student in, but it is needed, like things like their GPA, their ACT scores, what they're leaning towards for careers or fields that they want to study, like all the things that we have in there are important information that we can pull out to provide for our grant writing. And then just KIA releases a lot of statistics, and they take those statistics to legislation when they're trying to help get more funding for our program. There's a lot of reasons that we use that data. So it is tedious and it does take a lot of time, but it helps us when we're trying to pull this to use it for all the things that we use it for. If you want to go to the next slide. One of the more difficult parts of data capture, which I just said GPA and ACT scores, some of you don't have access like to Infinite Campus to just go and pull those. You'll have to get it from your students, is entering scholarships. So we want to make sure we take our time doing this and calculate it correctly. Sometimes students will get just a one-time scholarship, like here Double Quick gives away a lot of one-time $1,000. They'll give it away to like maybe 20 students. So make sure when you're entering that, there's a line that asks how much the total scholarship amount is, and then it'll ask you to break it down. So for your bigger scholarships, maybe a student's getting a $20,000 scholarship because they did something their junior or senior year and started accruing scholarships already. Make sure that you top that out. Okay, this is 20,000, but it's probably divided over their 4-year program. So in the line beside of it, you're going to put $5K times 4, per year, or times the 4 years to equal the 20,000. Make sure that you log all scholarships for your students, not just the ones that they accept. They'll probably be accepted to several different colleges and then be offered different scholarships. Let's just make sure that we're capturing all of that you've helped them with while you've been their college coach. In the past, I misunderstood that, and I only logged what they were taking and using. I didn't log everything that they were offered, so I missed out on a lot. And then keep up with your underclassmen. We have freshmen, sophomores, and juniors that also get scholarships for certain things. So make sure that they're sharing that with you and you go ahead and put it in their profile. So I'm a why person. I don't like to just be given a task. I like to know why that I'm doing this. So I wanted to put a few bullet points in that when we transfer core student data, we can sort things by category. So like if we want to look at just GPAs or ACT or college, we can choose pretty much any category of the data that you're filling out for reporting and tracking purposes. And then when you leave and go on to whatever you decide to do after your service, we're going to need to transfer your core students. So even things like the date that they became active as a core student and their graduation date, like they're anticipated, I don't think those are required, but it helps us when we are transferring, and it'll help the new coach. They'll be able to see like how many freshmen, sophomores, juniors, seniors they have by those dates. And then it helps us know when they were recruited, so we can set recruiting goals for the new coach. And then, of course, I already touched on all of these things that you're doing help us with our continued funding. And I can take questions if anybody has questions.
If I do not have access to like the GPAs, my seniors, I don't have their GPAs for their freshman year or their sophomore year to document. Is that okay? As long as I have their senior information in there?
Actually, there's a way you can get it, even if you
Okay.
don't have access to Infinite Campus. When you have your student log into their Kia account, it shows the GPA there and their most recent ACT.
I have their ACT scores and all that on my Infinite Campus, but I'm not finding like their freshman, sophomore, and junior GPAs. But my counselor will probably give those to me. I just haven't had a chance to ask for those.
Crystal,
And
if you
that kind of data,
access-
I was gonna say that kind of data is helpful too, because if we want to start comparing how the GPAs may come up after a core student's been involved, you know, that's just a data point. So it's really important to have those in there if we can.
And Tony, do you suggest using the weighted or the unweighted? Like in Kia, will it be weighted or unweighted GPA that we see?
Kias will be weighted.
Okay, thanks.
And I'm sure I don't have to tell everyone that, as far as our funding goes and just the impact of our program, these post-COVID data points are just incredible. Everybody's like waiting, right, around the state, like, what is really making a difference, what's helping. And I know how much you all are doing every day and how passionate you are. And so these post-COVID numbers are incredibly important to get as much, robust data in the system. And it is time consuming, like Rachel said, but it is so very important, on all these points. So thank you for all the effort that you do put into it. If there's any help, support, you just need to vent, after you put in a bunch of data and you just want to vent, give us a call. We'll support you. So, it is tedious, but it's so very important.
I had another question about the in-person training. I guess maybe Emily, if we have a change on what we submitted to you, are you going to be sending anything out about changes, or should we just directly email you?
You can always resubmit another form, but if it's just like a line item change, just email me and I can
Okay.
update it on the spreadsheet.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Thanks.
All right. Well, thanks for hanging in there, everybody that can. It's me again. And so another really exciting part of data is that, we love to recognize our core seniors when they get to graduation. And so I know a lot of you have been emailing me and excited. If you were with us last year, you know that this is something we were able to implement, and we're going to continue it this year with recognizing core seniors. And so here on this slide tells a little bit about the requirements for for a student to receive one or more of these items. So again, we're looking at recognizing core seniors, and you will need to make sure that they have complete as possible information in America Learns, including their anticipated graduation date showing of 2024, their GPA, ACT, and career pathway entered, any coaching or mentoring time logged, anytime that you've worked with them, and then progress indicated in your daily meeting notes. So make sure if you're holding on to some old session notes and you haven't entered them in, you will want to do that as quickly as possible. to get your students listed and to reserve an item to recognize their success and their achievement. So I will be sending out a Google form today, as if you need one more thing from me, but this one is a good thing. And we will need to know the number of your eligible core seniors. We will need to know which of the recognition items you are requesting. So that could be a certificate, an honor cord, or a pin. Well, let me say it like this: a certificate and or honor cord or pin. So you can get certificates for any of your seniors. Hopefully your school won't mind on the certificate. You can hand that to them, you know, kind of informally, or maybe as part of a bigger award ceremony for their participation. Just make sure that they do meet this eligibility criteria that we've set for the core seniors to receive that. And then you're going to want to check with your site supervisor or your principal to see if they allow either the pins that they can wear on their gown, their graduation gown, or the honor cord to be given and worn at their ceremony. So some of your schools do allow it. Some of them do not. And so usually what we found is those that do not allow the cords will allow the pins. So so you'll want to check and make sure that before you submit your request for items that you have that okay from your site. And then the plan is to bring these items already kind of organized and counted out for you according to your request to distribute them at the in-person training. If you are not going to be at the in-person training, then we will mail them to you. So we're doing this a lot earlier than we did last year. Last year was a little crazy, but this year I think we got it down. And so I'll send out the form today. And then the deadline to submit is going to be March 15th. Yeah. So, because that way we can get the extra cords ordered, we can get everything counted. You will need to write out your certificate. So we will have your certificates, you know, printed on very nice paper, and then you'll just fill it out with your core senior names, and then you'll sign it, and then you'll want to get your principals to sign them as well. So we'll give you enough time to get that done. So very exciting stuff. Your seniors hopefully have worked really, really hard, and they deserve that. And we know you've worked really hard with them. So any questions or concerns about recognizing your core seniors? Okay. If you do have questions later, you can always email me, or you can submit those questions or concerns on the form itself. I have a space for that. So if there's a question, I will respond to those once I start getting those responses from you. Oh, Cheryl, yes.
Thanks, Karen. I know somebody else asked about this, but I love those little state pins that we got, but have lost the bar to the back of it, the magnetic bar. I know somebody else asked about that earlier. Is there any way we can get a new bar or not?
Well, my guess is that we can. Let me make a note of that. So it's just, and I'm sorry that I don't have a pin with me. So it's a magnetic backing. It's like
Yeah, you know, our
okay,
Kentucky
yeah.
State and that
Yeah.
little rectangular magnetic bar that was behind it. Somebody else asked about it earlier. I can't remember who, but I know I've lost mine, unfortunately.
Okay. I will get with Megan to see if we can just, because I'm sure we can go on Amazon and just order, you know what I mean, just some of those magnet, you know, they should be universal. It's just a magnet, but we'll just have to make sure it's small enough in size to better represent. Oh, okay. And so Harley is asking about the actual name tag, and that I'm going to have to get with Megan on as well. I'm not sure about if they're still ordering those name tags, but I do agree that those are very nice name tags. So I'll see what I can find out for Janice or anyone else that is wanting a name tag. So great.
Thanks, Karen.
Oh, well, thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Awesome.
All right, Tony, are you still with us? We had you doing our checkout today. No, I see her camera's off, so she may have stepped away.
I'm
There you
here.
are. There you
Sorry,
are.
I had to take
You're
a
fine.
call.
No problem. We're ready for our checkout.
Okay, all right. Hang on just a second, Taylor. So our checkout, which March Madness moment best describes how you feel about the month ahead? 1, you're at the free throw line. I'm terrible at that. In the huddle, going in for a layup, dribbling, taking a buzzer shot, providing the assistance, or nothing but net. So where do you all feel like you are getting ready for our AmeriCorps week next week? I think I'm still in the huddle.
I'm with you, Tony.
I gotta figure it out. Ivy, are you gonna try to take the whole thing again this year? Just asking.
I don't know, but I'm definitely going to be some competition.
Bring it on.
She's poking the bear.
Protect that title, Avi.
All right. So is there anybody else who wants to share kind of why they answered the way that they did before we say goodbye? Well, thank you everybody for staying on the extra time. We appreciate you. And yeah, have a wonderful rest of your day.
You all take care.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
See you.